Now I request the chief guest, Professor Asha Kanwar, to deliver the convocation address. Professor Asha Kanwar.
Thank you. Professor Vasudha Kamath, Vice Chancellor of SNDT Women's University, members of the Senate and Management Council, graduates, colleagues, eminent guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's both an honor and a privilege to speak at the convocation of SNDT Women's University. As we all know, a convocation ceremony is a very important milestone in the journey of those of you who have now completed a critical stage of your lives and are stepping onto the next stage of further education or the world of work. To the institution, it marks an occasion to see many of its students whose talents it has nurtured move on successfully to the next stage of their lives. I am delighted to be part of this happy occasion, and I thank the Vice Chancellor, Professor Vasudha Kamath, herself a very powerful role model for women, for giving me this opportunity. SNDT Women's University has been a visionary institution well ahead of its time, pioneering the empowerment of women through education. But why a separate institution for women, one might ask? In India, a separate institution for women was a welcome opportunity for those who would otherwise never be allowed to attend co-educational institutions. And my own mother was not allowed to go beyond class 4 because she came from a village in Himachal Pradesh, and that time they didn't allow girls to go to schools. But women's institutions have gone beyond providing access to carve a unique role in society. Even in the United States, which has a different cultural context, women's institutions have brought great benefits. In a study of women who attended women's colleges in the US over a 50-year period, it was found that women who graduated from women's colleges were twice as likely to obtain doctorates as were women from co-educational institutions. Now, why is this so? Research shows that at least a part of the higher achievement of women's institutions can be attributed to the explicit commitment of the institutional leadership to the advancement of women. My own organization, the Commonwealth of Learning, which was established by Commonwealth heads of government and is located in Vancouver, Canada, recognizes gender as a cross-cutting theme that underpins all its programs. Maharishi Karve's vision of Sanskrita Stri Parishakti, or an enlightened woman is a source of infinite strength, is now being echoed in various ways by the development community. Let me quote what the World Bank says, and I quote, "Gender equality is an issue of development effectiveness, not just a matter of political correctness or kindness to women. New evidence demonstrates that when women and men are relatively equal, economies trend to grow faster, the poor move more quickly out of poverty, and the well-being of men, women, and children is enhanced," unquote. We have evidence of this right here in India. Reserving 1/3 of the panchayat seats for women has led to improvements in the provision of water, sanitation in schools, a reduction in corruption, teenage girls marrying later, and aspiring to higher education. In India and Nepal, after women had a bigger say in forest management, there has been a significant improvement in conservation outcomes. So we can see a very clear link between women's empowerment and development effectiveness. Yet, we need to do more. Women represent more than 40% of the global labor force, 43% of the agricultural workforce, and more than half the world's university students. In fact, in Southeast Asia, women account for about 70% of all higher education enrollments, including in science and technology. Yet, in spite of all that, we find fewer women at higher levels in most walks of life. For instance, today women hold only 19% of parliamentary seats worldwide, and it's very important because women need to have a voice at the highest political levels. Only 7 of the 150 elected heads of state are women. So what of the 54 member states of the Commonwealth? You'll be interested to note that the only 3 women prime ministers in the Commonwealth, Julia Gillard of Australia, Sheikh Hasina of Bangladesh, and Kamla Prasad Besesar of Trinidad and Tobago, organized a special session on empowering women to lead just before the Commonwealth heads of government met in Perth this October. They spoke of how they had been empowered through education. It is worth noting that there is a significant shift taking place here from women's equality to women's empowerment. This is not to suggest that women's equality has been achieved. In fact, many of the Commonwealth member states in sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia have the highest levels of discrimination against women, including our own country. And appropriately, the theme for the Commonwealth Day observed in March this year was Women as Agents of Change, Invest in Women and Transform the World. An increasing number of governments are realizing the value of investing in women's empowerment and accelerating national development. You have come a long way and still have many more Everests to climb. So let me now share with you the 3 pillars of success as you embark on your exciting adventure. When our generation graduated many years ago, we were sure that we would never have to study again. Today, the world has changed, and knowledge is multiplying at a rapid pace. What we learned 2 or 3 decades ago is just not enough even for survival, let alone for success in a highly competitive global market. Research indicates that you could have 2 to 4 careers in a lifetime, something that North American women are already doing. So even if you enter the world of work, you will still need to continue to learn, unlearn, and relearn many different things during the course of your life. In short, you will need to be lifelong learners if you wish to succeed. And you are young, and you may face many career choices in this ever-changing global economy. The second pillar is ambition. Scholars have spotted a female ambition gap, which means that women are less ambitious than men. When we were in school, ambition was a word considered with suspicion and meant only for the very pushy and power-hungry personalities. Now that has changed. In the past decade, women have shown that you can be ambitious, confident, and compassionate while maintaining a balance between work and life. As Susan Pinker, author of The Sexual Paradox, says, and I quote, "Not long ago, being at the top of the managerial change was the highest rung on the ladder for women. They were expected to want what men had always wanted. At last, women are moving beyond that, and we are seeing a new generation discovering their own ways of having it all," unquote. So it is all right to have big, hairy, ambitious goals and carve your own unique paths. But having ambitious goals is not enough. And this brings me to the third pillar, which is hard work. Usually people say that talent determines success in life. While talent may contribute to success, it is actually hard work that makes the difference between success and failure. You all know that the Beatles are legends whose music will stand the test of time. Very few know that in 1960, when they were still struggling, they were invited to play in a club in Germany. They had to play 7 days a week, no weekends, and 8 hours a day. And it was then that they found their form and gained the confidence of their craft. This is what set them on the road to success. Malcolm Gladwell, in his book Outliers, which many of you may have seen, gives an interesting perspective on how to become a world-class expert in any field of activity. It is the 10,000-hour practice rule. He looks at a study done by Berlin's Academy of Music. They divided the violinists into 3 groups. The first group were the stars, the second group were good, while the third were amateurs. All 3 groups were asked how many hours they practiced the violin. In the beginning, at about the age of 5, everyone practiced for about 2 to 3 hours a week. But after the age of 8, those who practiced more than others were the best in their classes. They were practicing 8 hours a week by the age of 12, and by the time they reached age 20, they were practicing 30 hours a week. In short, the star performers had practiced for 10,000 hours. Those who were good students had practiced for about 8,000 hours. The difference between being good and great is 2,000 hours of practice or hard work, which is something probably those who got prizes today can calculate, do a rough calculation how many hours you've done, and that would probably come to this calculation. So the moral of the story is that if you want to excel and reach the top, you have to work not just hard, but much harder than everyone else. Bill Gates got the opportunity to do computer programming when still in grade 8. He spent about 20 to 30 hours on the computer every week, during the night, and on weekends. And he was way past the 10,000-hour mark in about 7 years. As Henry Ford put it, and I quote, "Genius is seldom recognized for what it is, a great capacity for hard work," unquote. On that profound note, let me extend my warm greetings and congratulations to all of you who graduate today. As you set out on the next steps of your journey, I am sure you will proudly recall the value of the opportunities that SNDT Women's University gave you and how it empowered you for success. May this Christmas and New Year bring you peace, prosperity, and progress. And with that, let me thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Madam. The Assembly will please rise for the national anthem and will remain standing until the procession leaves the convocation hall.
Close the convocation.
Before we have the national anthem, may I request, Madam,
I declare that the convocation be closed.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्छल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा